I've always been an optimist by nature, but also a realist.
The realist side of Isaiah Kaufusi's brain told him he was never going to play in the NFL. But at BYU, head coach Kalani Sitake, along with others, kept telling the Cougar linebacker something very different.
It's actually a reality. Like, you could probably get there if you wanted to and if you tried. So I started to look at it some more. And so I always just said, hey, if the opportunity will present itself, I'll take it and I'll run. And I'll give it my best shot. I felt like I did. The NFL experience was great. I went undrafted to Indianapolis, was with the Colts for about 9 months, and then got fired and hired and fired and hired and fired multiple times.
After a workout with the New York Giants, Isaiah watched their players leave the facility, knowing they'd made the team, while his future was uncertain.
It was just me in that room. They were just kind of going back and forth on whether they were going to keep me or not. And it was in that moment I said, like, I'm done. There is more for me out there. And I kind of made a promise to myself that I'll build something for myself that the NFL could never give me. And that was, I think, the realist in me kind of coming out saying, hey, it's okay. You've given it your best shot. There are other high-level things that you need to start working at and chasing.
He just never imagined that path would lead him to running a foundation set to open an employment center in Tonga later this year, with hopes for more down the road.
The last year of my life, I have either felt a constant push or a constant tug to get this thing done.
And once again, it traces back to Coach Sitake's belief in him.
This is the Big Stories Podcast, where we tell the amazing and inspiring stories from across the Big 12 Conference.
I'm your host, Cleon Wall. Isaiah Kaufusi goes by a few titles. Husband and father are just two of them.
Those are my two titles I really carry close.
He also has a few titles outside of his home.
I'm an executive at Pro 27, and then I am the president of the We Are One Foundation.
That last title has captured his imagination long before he lived it, back when the foundation was still just an idea.
I couldn't stop thinking about Tonga and the people there and the potential impact that we could have.
Isaiah and others have run with that idea, which came from his former head coach. But why would Kalani Sitake want to start a foundation to help others get jobs in Tonga and around the world? Let's dive in and find out. BYU football players filed into their team meeting room for a different type of gathering at the end of spring ball practices. Yes, there was talk about off-season conditioning and sleep schedules, but they also met BYU Pathway students and graduates from around the world. We'll explain what BYU Pathway is in just a moment.
And ye shall go for suffering, pains, and afflictions and temptations of every kind.
A man from Africa shared a spiritual thought and his testimony of Jesus Christ, and a BYU football player followed with one of his own. Then the players broke into the school fight song. The meeting ended with a prayer from a woman from Africa, asking God to watch over the team and care for their physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Gatherings like this didn't happen by accident. They started because BYU head football coach Kalani Sitake had a question, one that began with players earning money through their name, image, and likeness.
He was getting connected with different business people, really throughout the country, and one of them happened to be Matt Downs.
Matt runs Sandbox Industries, a venture capital firm, and Isaiah Kaufusi said Coach Sitake wanted his perspective on NIL and how to build it the right way.
And, Matt came in and he just said, Coach, I don't know anything about NIL. I really only know a lot about BYU Pathway. And do you mind if we maybe turn our attention there? And so Kalani was totally open, and Matt had just shared a lot about BYU Pathway.
So what is BYU Pathway? It's an affordable online university created by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It opens the door for students around the world to earn a degree or certificate, opportunities they might not otherwise have, often because of cost.
90,000 students. That number is expected to get up to 1 million by 2034. So rapid growth, mainly in Africa, but also throughout the South Pacific and emerging markets.
And Matt wasn't only a successful businessman, He also serves as a service missionary with BYU Pathway.
Kalani came in thinking about money, talking about money, but really, I think, quickly pivoted to how can we then help people around the world and focus our attention to them and serve. And then, I think, Kalani's thesis was, if I can just focus on others and helping and serving, that's really the focus that our team needs. And then the money and everything else will come.
Matt then presented the football players with a service opportunity.
And said, if any of you are interested in helping some of these students, he's like, just come talk to me after the team meeting.
Connor Pay, a former Cougar offensive lineman, now serves as an offensive quality control coach for the program.
5 or 10 of us from the team went up and talked to Matt after practice.
Connor had served a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ in Washington, D.C., where he met and taught a lot of people from West Africa.
Pathway is exploding in West Africa, and I wanted to be able to mentor some of those people. And so I went to Matt and said, hey, I want to do this. And
as a mentor, Connor spends about an hour a week answering questions and dispensing advice. He pulled up a WhatsApp conversation with a man named Kingsley to share an example.
He basically said, I just created my first resume. I've been trying to understand how to plan and set my goals in other areas to be successful in my career. And so then we just asked follow-up questions. Like, what area of work are you looking in? And he said he wanted to find a data entry job. We helped get him set up on Fiverr and helped him to find a data entry, just an entry-level data entry job.
The chance for BYU players to serve as pathway advisors came after Isaiah Kaufusi left the team. But even then, Coach Sitake's focus was already on serving others.
During my time here at BYU, he had founded a nonprofit that was really just a vehicle for the players to serve. And so, as an underclassman and then eventually as a leader, I saw the impact that service had on our team and our players and our leadership, and really kind of like created a great foundation for us.
So it probably didn't surprise Isaiah when his former head coach reached out with an idea.
Coach Kalani called me in and said, hey, I've introduced the Pathway program into our football program, and this thing is amazing, and I'd love to do more. I've got a few ideas, but I need someone to run it for me.
At the time, Isaiah was working at software giant Adobe as a business development manager.
Adobe was great to me, really networked my way into a great role.
But he and Coach Sitake kept talking.
I think it was a lot of conversations, kind of on his end that had led up to an idea of just building an employment center in Tonga. And so that was really what he wanted to accomplish. He wanted to kind of give back in that way.
The Kingdom of Tonga is a place near and dear to both of them.
Coach Kalani was born there. My father was born there as well. But I was lucky enough to go back to Tonga after high school and serve an LDS church mission, which was just phenomenal. I had this really close tie, and there's a lot of what I would call, I guess, prophecy as I was leaving the island that I needed to return and bring back the wealth of knowledge and the things that I'm learning to the island.
So Isaiah faced a decision: stay in his stable role at Adobe or help launch a brand new foundation in the South Pacific.
Really kind of counseled with our Father in heaven and really kind of spent a lot of time just pondering and thinking through that decision. I knew it was right because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I would wake up early and it was all just like this passion-filled energy around it. And so that's kind of how I knew that I was headed in the right direction. And so it made it a little bit easier, but it's still a lot of fear and kind of doubt. I had really previously no experience running a business or creating a business.
This was Isaiah again, balancing his optimism with realism. And this is where Connor Pay comes in, the former BYU center with a degree in entrepreneurial management from the Marriott School of Business.
Kalani had told me, we need to do something with Pathway when you're done, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. I didn't really know what that meant. And obviously he didn't want to interrupt my NFL career either. And so after I got cut from the Raiders and I came back here, I was just training every day. And so I was already in the building a lot, and that's when Kalani said, hey, like, he lured me in with business to get me to come help coach too. And so he said, he met with me and he said, hey, Isaiah and I have been working on something for a little while. And he said, we want you to help us build it. I want to do two things. And he goes, I want to have a for-profit company to help hire these students. Then he said, I also want to do a nonprofit. Said, I'm all in. Whatever you want to do, I'm all in.
Why do you think he chose you?
I think he knew that I already had a passion for Pathway and for the people. And I think also just I feel like I do have decent people skills and I could sell and close deals.
Connor has brought a lot of that rigor to kind of the startup and the entrepreneur type of mentality that I think I'm learning and I've needed.
Once I knew that like Kalani wanted me doing this, then things started moving pretty fast from there. And it was only 3 or 4 months before we had an official foundation. We were getting IRS approval to be a 501c3, and our company was formed, and we were actually starting to pitch clients, and it all happened really fast.
That's how Makeke Ventures and the We Are One Foundation came to be. And as you might guess, Makeke is the revenue-generating arm of that two-pronged approach.
It's not like we were trying to be greedy and make a lot of money. The intent of the for-profit was, as we got introduced to the problem, Pathway students need jobs when they're done. We said, okay, what are the barriers? And so we saw a few issues and we just said, okay, let's just build a for-profit entity that simply will broker referral agreements, reseller agreements to outsource work or to hire Pathway students.
For example,
there's a company here in Utah that wants to hire a Pathway student. We need a Pathway student who speaks Spanish and Portuguese. She will then go pull and has access to the BYU Pathway student database and says, okay, here are your 10 people that fit this criteria, that are studying this, that are doing this. Let's bring them back to this company and they can interview these 10 people.
So we essentially make it a one-stop streamlined service for them to hire Pathway students. We are able to negotiate some contracts and be able to do it cheaper, and so that's the for-profit side, is essentially the hiring agency.
The name Makeke also is meaningful to Isaiah, Kalani, and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Tonga.
So there's a church school in Tonga. It was called Makeke. My ancestors, my great-grandparents actually went to Makeke.
Coach Sitake's father attended the school as well, and generations ago, a church leader prophesied that island nations would be part of the biblical gathering of the children of Israel.
Through a lot of different ways, but sports will be one of them. When they're like, what are you talking about? Like, we don't play sports.
And since that time, many Tongan members of the church have gone on to play football at BYU.
As we were spinning about this, Kalani's dad, Pops, was like, you guys, we're fulfilling the Makeke prophecy. This is the gathering of Israel. We've done it through sports, taking BYU football and building an employment center in Tonga. Like, this is what was prophesied. And so we felt like it was a good kind of paying homage to that Makeke prophecy.
While Makeke works to connect people with jobs around the world, the We Are One Foundation is focused on building an employment center in Tonga. The long-term vision is to expand those centers across the South Pacific and Africa. But for a few clear reasons, Tonga is where it begins.
So Coach Kalani was born there. My father was born there as well. So, it just feels right. Tonga feels right. There is a pretty heavy Pathway presence there, and it's growing very quick.
Why is the need so great for them to have this employment center or have employment?
Yeah, it's a great question. I just got the chills just thinking about how I'm going to answer this. So historically, up to this point, to really find, better education and better employment, you had to leave the island.
Thousands depart every single year to go and pick fruit in other countries.
45% of the GDP of Tonga comes through remittances or outside money being sent back in. And so we've kind of seen this slow increase of population leaving the islands, seeking better education opportunities. And so what we really seeing is, hey, this is kind of a ripe economy for driving jobs. And so we believe that, as we, if we could get to 2,000 jobs at about $5 to $6 an hour, you could increase the GDP by 18%, which is just, I think, stellar. We started with 0 remote jobs about 7 months ago. I think we're up to 82 in the island in about 6 or 7 months. So we, have just had a lot of companies start to raise their hands saying, hey, I hear you're hiring in Tonga.
Once completed, the Employment Center will serve 2 purposes. In the early morning hours, it will function as a hub where workers use the center's technology to support U.S. companies during their business day.
The second shift will actually be dedicated to BYU Pathway students. And so we anticipate that we could see anywhere from 100 to 175 potential students coming through the building, using the facilities, using the Wi-Fi to do their schoolwork. We will also then provide different opportunities to learn and to grow. So you can think of this obviously as a co-working space, similar to a Kiln or a WeWork.
One of the biggest challenges was finding the right space. Isaiah traveled to the island nation and walked through 4 different buildings.
None of them felt quite right. We were feeling a little bit defeated on kind of our second day there, and we were leaving the next day.
And that's when a call from Isaiah's uncle opened a new door to a friend named Charlotte with a vacant building.
And the second we walked in, I think we just felt like this is the place. This is our building. This is going to be the start of something beautiful.
It's under renovation right now. It should be complete when we get there at the end of June.
Coach Kalani and several of his staff members will be there. We're going to take probably 8 players. And so we'll go and we'll get to Tonga. We are going to tour the facility. We're going to have a big program around kind of the grand opening of the building.
And then the long-term goals of the foundation is to rinse and repeat this cycle of creating a hub in a country where BYU Pathway students can thrive in their schoolwork, and then also have a place where they can securely go to work once we help them find full-time employment.
If we could get to 10 to 12 buildings around the world, I think that would move the needle a lot.
Coach Sitake prefers to stay in the background, letting Isaiah and Connor handle the interviews and the day-to-day work of the foundation and Makeke Ventures. But his vision has the potential to change hundreds, maybe thousands of lives. And it's already changed, too.
I feel like working on this has kind of really recentered me on what the most important things are in life, and that there are things that I am more passionate about than football. And it's, don't get me wrong, it's very close, but this is one of them. And so I'm really grateful now, and I'm grateful every day that I'm in a unique position that, Kalani's given me, to where I get to do this stuff for Pathway, but I get to feed both my passions, and I get a coach on the staff too.
I'll share this. I've been extremely blessed in my life. Have had some hardships, but for the most part, have been very blessed. I've now looked back and I realize that all my experiences have led me to this point. The good and the bad and the ugly have all been kind of priming me for this opportunity. And I mean, just my look back now, it's just, man, I'm just grateful. I'm a man of action. I just like to run with things, and I take them and run and execute. Something that I think Coach Kalani was a big part of teaching me. And so it's just been a little bit serendipitous on how it's all kind of led me to this point.
To find out more about the foundation or to donate, just log on to theweareonefoundation.com. This episode was produced by Brandon Thorpe, with music and sound design provided by Jimmy Call and the BYU Radio post-production team. The pod will have more inspiring and amazing tales from around the Big 12 in the near future. Big Stories is a production of BYU Radio.